begin our concurrent session shortly. So if you're interested in economic security in the era of the fragmented world, please go to the other room. But if you're interested in new disruptive technologies and security challenges, AI, blockchain, and cyber, the good news is you are in the right room. So please make sure that you're in the right room, and we will begin this session shortly. Thank you.
ที่สนใจเข้ารับฟังของ concurrent session นะคะใน session ที่1นะคะขอเชิญห้องนี้นะคะซึ่งเราจะพูดคุยกันในเรื่องของตัว security ของ AI blockchain นะคะแล้วก็สำหรับอีก session หนึ่งก็คืออยู่ที่ห้องเดิมนะคะก็คือในCrystal Hall B นั่นเองนะคะห้องนี้คือ Crystal Hall A นะคะแล้วก็อีกแป๊บนึงเดี๋ยวเราก็จะเริ่มการสนทนากันแล้วค่ะDistinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the concurrent session 1. We will be discussing the theme of new disruptive technologies and security challenges, AI, blockchain, and cyber. If you wish to discuss economic security in the era of fragmented world, please move to Crystal B.
We continue today's theme of non-traditional security. Much has been made of the potential benefits and disruption from the implementation of artificial intelligence, as well as blockchain and cyber technologies.
And our first panelist is Mr. Dilayut Sapsisopa, founder and Group CEO of BitCup Capital Group Thailand. BitCup is currently Thailand's largest company involved in blockchain technology and digital assets. Since graduating from the University of Manchester and the University of Oxford, Mr. Dilayut has acquired over a decade of experience in the digital and blockchain industries and is Thailand's leading expert on cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Our second panelist will be Lieutenant General G.A.V. Reddy. He is a graduate of the Officers Training Academy, Chennai. Lieutenant General Reddy held prestigious positions such as the Commandant of the Officers Training Academy, Gaya, and was the Director General of India's Defence Intelligence Agency and Deputy Chief of Integrated Defence Staff. Currently, Lieutenant General Reddy is the Chief Strategic Officer at Synergia Foundation, India, an independent strategic think tank working at the forefront of emerging technologies, diplomacy, and global security challenges.
And our last panelist is Ms. Hanneke Kriegels, who has over 2 decades of experience in the semiconductor sector, leveraging her background in industrial design engineering. She has held leadership roles at prominent companies such as Xilinx and Cypress Semiconductor. Currently, Ms. Kriegels is the corporate vice president at Global AI Market of Advanced Micro Device AMD, where she is responsible for the company's strategic vision for artificial intelligence.
Moderating the discussions today will be Mr. Mohammed Faisal bin Abdul Rahman, Research Fellow at the Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies at the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies, Nanyang Technical University, Singapore. Mr. Mohammed Faisal draw on his extensive experiences working at the Singapore Ministry of Home Affairs and National Security and the Ministry of Communications and Information. His current research interests include the implications of diplomatic, informational, military, and cyber issues on regional security, the entwinement of technology and geopolitics in the Indo-Pacific security architecture, and hybrid threats challenges on regionalism. Please welcome our panelists and moderator to the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and Sawadee-kap. I'm very happy to be here with my very esteemed panelists on this very important session. Please allow me to just do a quick introduction to this session. So, this session's topic on new disruptive technologies and security challenges, AI, blockchain, and cyber, is very important in the context of peace and security in the global disruption. So we know that global disruption is not new. The world also went through major changes in the early 20th century, when decades of peace among the European great powers ended, leading to more geopolitical tensions, militarizations, and with impact globally, including in Southeast Asia. And of course, behind this disruption was major changes in the balance of power and politics, driven also by technology changes, creating new security challenges and revolutionized warfare. We know about how the emergence of telephone communication extended the range of military command and control, making the role of intelligence more vital. We know how the introduction of aviation technology made air power possible, as humans can then manipulate a new domain of operations. And today, our new domain of operation is more of the cyber or digital domain. So today, we are grappling with security challenges arising from the evolution of computing power and digital technologies. And they are making the cyberspace a critical domain of operations. The convergence of AI and cyber warfare creates new opportunities and threats. And I'm sure some of us have heard about this new trend called agentic AI, where AI can fight with each other without humans in between. We've heard about how blockchain technology can enable data security and supply chain integrity. But at the same time, we heard from the last panel this morning about how blockchain or cryptocurrency can enable cyber crimes with impact on regional security. Every nation today has to develop their own comprehensive strategy to protect the digital ecosystems, be it their people, their critical infrastructure, from all forms of threats on the cyberspace. So these are some of the topics that our esteemed panelists today will delve into more details, and we will have them give a presentation each, and after that we will proceed to Q&A. The idea is to end this on time by 12:30 for our lunch, although the topic of this session is disruptive technologies, but I think we should not disrupt our lunch later, okay? So without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker, Lieutenant General Gav Reddy. Sir, after.
Oh no, it is required for Q&A. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I bring along with me the greetings and best wishes of Mr. Toby Simon, the founder president of Synergia Strategic Think Tank based at Bangalore, India. I convey my deep appreciation to particularly Major General Niruth, the Director General of SSC, for inviting Synergia representative here this afternoon. Right, as the moderator already spoke about few new disruptive technologies, The new disruptive technologies offer obviously significant advantages, well known to all of us. They improve efficiency, they cut costs, they speed up working style and decision making, and so on and so forth. Endless opportunities. But simultaneously, it will also stimulate broader transformations in society, in economy, in governance, and so on. Then what is the issue? The issue is that these technologies are laced with complex security challenges. And these security challenges are contagious, and because of the interconnected nature beyond borders, it affects one and all the nations, whether you like it or not, all of us would get impacted. Maybe we are already getting impacted to an extent. These new disruptive technologies also attack the surfaces rapidly and always evolve at the fastest pace. So then what? The obvious solution to that is to have the comprehensive national strategies and also build resilient systems in each of our nations. Can any particular nation or a region alone do it? Obviously not, because of the interconnected status of these challenges. It has to be whole of the nation as well as the whole of the global effort. So the national strategies should be driven by the conviction and commitment and not merely driven by crisis or compulsions. With that as the prelude, let me move on to the next overview. So you see, I've just listed 3 particular transformative technologies here: AI, blockchain, and cybersecurity. What is highlighted is very important. It gives you a lot of opportunities. The pros and cons are just indicative. It can be long list. But what I need to emphasize here is that inaction is not neutral. It is strategically permissive. So nations, governments, societies have got no option but to take action. Now coming to AI in particular, I've just listed a few key security risks. I'm sure my colleagues who would come up at the rostrum subsequently will have many more security challenges to be elaborated. But all that I would say is that these are the challenges that we are already facing. I, as a military professional, I was already facing these challenges, whether it is bias and then output because of the bias, also the unpredictable behavior of the AI. So one has to be mindful that major step is to identify the challenges, security challenges posed by the AI. If that is done effectively, obviously half the battle is done. Because if you identify the security challenge, the system can come out with solution. The governments and nations will find a way to deal with the security challenges. But then what are the national security implications of these challenges? You would see that particularly in military domain, it is being extensively used, and therefore the implications would also be enormous. The adverse implications, as the chief of the defense intelligence in my own country, I have felt it, I have experienced firsthand. This is a major security implication for all the militaries. The bias in critical decision making. Just imagine if it is a critical decision and if it is biased because of the AI and you are not even aware, the implications are going to be disastrous. Not just the military output, but then the national security itself will be impacted. And also the autonomous weapons, we are seeing what's happening across the globe in the continents where the conflicts are undergoing, whether it's Ukraine, Russia, or in Israel, Gaza. Already this is being felt. Autonomous weapons, sometimes beyond the control of the decision makers and the policy makers have got no hold on that. That's the disaster. So, next, some have already done something to address these challenges. I have only listed 2 countries, basically United States and the consortium of the US, UK and other 16 countries. Why I have listed these 2 successful implementations as an example is that if they can do, everybody can do. Why they have done it? Because they were not bystanders. They realized that it is an urgent necessity and they have implemented and it is functioning effectively. And that's the fact that one must underline, that whoever takes the initiative and be proactive, they will reap the benefits of implementation of these measures to deal with these AI disruptions. Moving on to the next, the blockchain. Again, I have listed out a few security challenges. You being the well-informed audience, I don't have to read all those which has been listed out there. You all well understand. The 51% attack is the most prominent attack, and it's globally felt. Irrespective of the size of the nation, irrespective of the critical infrastructure in each of these nations, it's being felt already, blockchain. So what do we do with the addressing of these challenges? Again, national security implications. All these disruptive technologies has got implications for the national security apparatus. So we have to have the safeguarding measures. The rail guard has to be brought in. How do we do it? Some of the measures and the adverse impacts has been listed out. The cyber security and the resilience, the geopolitical and the economic stability, these are the issues that we must be mindful of, the adverse impact that blockchain will bring in. Again, here I have listed out Vietnam and Estonia. Our neighbor from Thailand is not very far off, Vietnam. My colleague, Colonel Laszlo, is the DA for Vietnam, Thailand, and Japan. I am sure you would share much more experience of his being the defense attaché there. Again, they have taken the lead. And if they have taken the lead, others must act now. Need not always wait for others to take lead. I move on to the cyber security, which is the most evolving security challenge. It's evolving, and if we know that we understand the challenges posed by the cyber security, we are sadly mistaken. Probably we don't even know few undercurrent and underneath this subsurface what is happening in the cyber domain. And what we feel that we know is inadequate, grossly inadequate to counter these evolving security challenges. Cyber security challenges are like those trans-border crimes, very widely networked, and you don't know from where it is being targeted at you. If you think that you as a nation, you have safeguarded your systems, your policies, procedures are in place, you are sadly mistaken. In one corner, unknown corner of the globe, somebody sitting with one computer system or a laptop can create havoc. It can impact the economies, the societies, the governance, the militaries across all domains. Now, again, key security risks. I'm not going to, again, elaborate on that because this is one thing all of you would be reading day in, day out in electronic medias. You will be observing this. So, moving on to the interplay between AI, blockchain, and cyber. This is what the moderator was also briefly mentioning. This is the most dangerous syndrome, the interplay between the 3 disruptive technologies. Because the cumulative effect, the convergence of these technologies is what, as policymakers, we have to be mindful. It is easier to target each of those disruptive technologies in silos, maybe AI, blockchain, cyber. But together, just imagine the cumulative the adverse impact that it would have on the nation. Coming on to what next? All this, what I said is the security challenges, but then we must do something. We must act. How do we do that? First important ingredient for successful implementation of countermeasures is collaboration. Because it is a global phenomena, it's a global security challenge. So nations beyond borders look left, right, and share what you have with you as far as the information, as far as the experiences, whether good, bad, ugly. That's what is collaboration. Collaboration will only happen when you have political will and the commitment to address the security challenges. You have to have flexible regulations. You can't have very stifling environment where, because of your security challenges, ghostly appearance, you can't curb the innovative minds, you can't stifle the governance and other instruments of nation which are reaping the benefits of these very disruptive technologies. The underlying factor is the balancing between the regulation and also allowing the flexibility to operate for reaping the benefits of these technologies. R&D investment goes beyond saying, and public awareness. That's most important, particularly in developing and underdeveloped nations. I feel this is much more needed in case of the society where the awareness is limited. Now I come to some policy considerations. I have already talked about all this, and also what I wish to say is that unless nations come together and decide to act, it is impossible to have a formulation of a strategy to deal with these technologies. How do we do it? First is the thought leadership. Let's sit together and understand the challenges itself, understand the scope and the vast adverse impacts that it can have on our societies. And once we understand how it's impacting the whole globe, obviously the combined wisdom will also come up with solutions to these security challenges. And then you have to have the financial backing, because it needs certain technological tools, it needs highly skilled manpower to address these challenges. All that won't happen unless there is financial backing, and it has to be a concerted effort. With that, I now conclude. It has to be agile, it has to be collaborative, and it has to be evidence-driven policy to address these security challenges by harnessing the innovations for public good, resilience, and the prosperity. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, General Reddy. It's a very insightful presentation. In fact, I think one key takeaway from his presentation is, above all, especially from the first few slides, was on unpredictable AI behavior, which I think basically affects all the other issues that he has been mentioning. So, anyway, it's time now for our second presentation. May I invite Ms. Anike Freckles? Ms. Anike, please.
I'm honored to be here at this important event, and I'm very honored to be here at this special event and speaking here, and I'm very humbled that I'm here as a business partner. A lot of you are in the policy world, governance world, but we are actually a business partner. So it was fascinating over the last day, this morning, to listen to all the disruptions, the collaborations, the threats. And I'm thinking by myself, let's put AI on top of all of this. All the disruptions, all of it is only get crazier over the next few years. So I'm going to focus in here on AI today. For the people that are not really familiar with AMD yet, we have been working for 55 years now on building and driving innovation on high-performance computing, graphics, gaming, now also AI infrastructure. We develop semiconductors and the whole software stack that goes with it. And we are in the Mars rover, in fighter jets, in autonomous driving vehicles, servers, laptops, and basically everything in between. We are headquartered in Silicon Valley, and I have about 30,000 colleagues, a few of them in Thailand, and about 1/3 of them in India, and the rest is scattered over. So the AI era is no longer on the horizon. It's right here, it's happening, it's transforming all the global economies. Artificial intelligence is not a single technology. It's not a single domain. It's a constellation of technologies, of principles, sub-principles, tools, techniques. And in 2024, last year, the world's biggest technology companies invested $75 billion in 1 quarter. And they are on track to invest $300 billion in this year. But the transformation is not only driven by AI infrastructure. The winners of the AI economy are not necessarily the ones that are building the biggest models, but the ones that apply AI with purpose and using their value to create new things, to drive business innovation, and to reimagine entire industries. AI is considered the 27th general purpose technology. And just like electricity and all the other general purpose technologies, it takes time between the technology to be born and it becoming an industry. So an example of that right now that we are in is quantum. Quantum, the technology is there, but it's not yet an industry. The same has been happening with AI. It takes time for it to become a real industry. But the pace of progress right now is so fast and so dynamic. It is reshaping economy, trade, the whole ruling of statecraft, of diplomacy, and it's shifting the basis for competition within industries, especially across borders. Within AMD, I am responsible for sovereign AI. As a team, we work with the different governments worldwide to discuss to them what they want to achieve with AI and how we're going to partner with them to build out their AI infrastructure. So in 2017, Canada actually was the first country that put down their AI strategy on paper. And a lot of countries followed pretty quickly after that. All these sovereign AI plans include these items: strategy, vision, economy, all of that. What I see in all these discussions with these countries worldwide is that there's a lot of commonalities and there's a lot of difference. Every deal is different. And that is because every country focuses on different AI use cases. Some countries really want to preserve their culture. Some countries want to drive and optimize efficiency in agriculture, oil and gas, and some really want to make a big leap in advancement in, for instance, life sciences, drug discovery. Oh, yep. But there's also commonality. The first one is, of course, economic growth. Every country wants to grow. The second one is education. Every government asks us, how can you help us to make sure that our workforce, our youngsters, our students are AI literate? And then I like to take it a step further. Thirdly,
how, once you have everybody educated, how do you retain them within the country? It's worse when you educate people and then they leave the country to work somewhere else, for instance, Silicon Valley or anywhere else. So as a country, you have to develop an ecosystem of AI startups so that everybody will stay in the country and really contribute to your economy. We are now in the time frame of AI policy convergence. You see that every policy in the country has some AI aspects to it, and all these policies are starting to converge. It's also, we are in the period of policy making. A lot of countries or regions, like the European Union, really wants to put a sort of policy framework around AI. And it is a very, very difficult task to do. Now, for a business, it is important that we have policy. Policy creates consumer trust, and consumer trust creates business. It's a very, very clear linear conclusion. So we need to have policy, but it cannot stifle technology. We often hear the phrase, the global race for AI leadership. And I always wonder, is it really a race? A race is about winners and losers. And really, this is not where we are right now. The only race we are in right now is the race against time. Because certain countries, certain companies will go way faster than others, and we cannot be left behind. Effectively addressing the security challenges posed by disruptive technologies necessitates the creation of resilient national ecosystems built upon strong public partnerships and coherent national strategies. That is a mouthful, but what is important is that AI is so complex that nobody can do it by themselves anymore. No country, no company. So we have to build ecosystems. It's a very, very long build-up of a stack of AI infrastructure, semiconductors, software, OEMs, and all of them need to work together. It is about collaboration. I'm really happy over the last day and a half to hear that this region is all about collaboration, and it was mentioned quite a lot. Also, you see on the bottom of this slide what is very important, and we're not there yet, but it's coming very quickly as well. Thailand and the entire region needs to think about how are we going to deploy AI or agentic AI and over time robots. This is really going to change your labor workforce. And as a longtime leader, I think it's a fascinating topic, because how are we going to work with these hybrid workforces where you have a lot of agents that never go to sleep, that are never hungry and that are never sick, yet you also have still a human workforce, and you need to make them feel secure as well. Now there's four critical pillars that are defining the success of AI infrastructure. One is open everything. In order to collaborate, we need to have a commitment to open ecosystem, open software, open architectures. We cannot be locked in by an architecture, for instance. This is a commitment to open, flexible, and responsible AI. We have not heard that word a lot yet here, but responsible AI is a commitment that we all make. Secondly, full spectrum AI infrastructure. At AMD, we have products, a whole broad line of products, from large GPUs to CPUs, and then to bring AI all the way to the edge, small FPGAs. Let's talk here about the AI divide. A lot of countries and companies that we talk with, they do not have billions of US dollars laying around. As you can imagine, there's complete regions in the world that do not have that amount of money to invest. Now, the good thing is because we do have a full spectrum infrastructure, we can work with countries to start with AI PCs, for instance. These PCs are now so powerful that you can hand them to students and to your faculty members, and a lot of AI can be created on them. So we start in countries like that, and then once we advance, we build out actual AI infrastructure. Right now, we are led to believe that everybody needs huge data centers and huge GPUs. And that's not true. Not everybody needs a Lamborghini. Different use cases need different compute, and we need to hone that in country by country. So we are working with the different countries to really build the AI infrastructure that is optimal for them. But we also hope that at least some nations and some countries prioritize AI for good. It is kind of extending a digital olive branch to different nations that do not have the money, and we don't want them to be left behind. Very important going forward. The third one is small AI will be huge, and I love that one because it has two sides to it. Right now, in the media, you hear everything about large language models and training. But over time, all these language models are going to be more optimized, more tailored to certain industries, and they're going to be smaller. Also here, the other side of small is that small countries and small companies can make a huge impact on the world because of AI. So you see that now already, where 3 people somewhere in Silicon Valley have a company that are now already $1 billion worth. You will see that also with countries, and we see that already. Singapore, definitely for the size of company, they've really leaned in on AI. Estonia, we saw that just now coming up, as well as Finland. So smaller countries will have also a lot of impact on AI. And the last pillar is resiliency and silicon diversity. Thailand and the entire region, sovereignty, resilience, and security depends on its capacity to develop and consume AI within its borders. Are we going to be net an AI importer or an AI exporter, or hopefully neutral? If all local AI runs on one stack, one piece of silicon with one, for instance, hyperscaler, it is a very risky proposition. We need to make sure that we have an open ecosystem, an open stack, so that there is resiliency and silicon diversity. So AMD's goal is to equip nations with the computational backbone that fuels scientific discovery, commercial innovation, and economic growth. This is made possible due to our commitment to this open ecosystem, open source, and that is going to be very important for AI. Now, like I said, AI is not on the horizon anymore. It's right here with us. But there will be big scientific breakthroughs coming up very soon. And I personally think that will be especially on the life sciences side. If you see what is happening on the drug discovery side is phenomenal. And it really will make an impact on humankind. And yes, there is going to be also bad actors and good actors. And of course, we have to be very careful with our security and really ensure that all of it will be handled well. And therefore, responsible AI is really a big motto that we take very, very serious. So to wrap it up, for Thailand and for the entire region, AI is now, we're stepping up as AMD to partner with everybody, and let's shape the future of AI together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aniki. You know, what I gather from your presentation is that AMD, as a technological company, provides the computational backbone for nations. So, and she also mentioned about how AI is changing the way that statecraft and diplomacy is being conducted. You know, when we talk about the last 1.5 days, we talk about strategic competition, major powers. We talk about states. But from my point of view, the major powers are not just states, but technology companies too. So I think we are quite honored to have a technological superpower here on the stage with us. Okay, our third speaker is Top. Top, we'll be interested to hear your views about blockchain, which is, I understand, your area of expertise, blockchain, cryptography. And we all know that blockchain is actually fascinating because there's lots of potential to enhance data security, supply chain, but we are also worried about the impact on threats like cybercrime, money laundering, and ransomware. And from the earlier panel we heard this morning, we know that issues relating to cryptocurrency, money laundering are not just simply a law enforcement issue, but has impact on a country's sovereignty, defense considerations, and even regional security. So I think, Top, we would like to hear from you on some of these issues.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Thailand Security Dialogue, for inviting me to be one of the speakers this morning. I'm so honored to be on the same stage with the esteemed panelists. And as a Thai, I'm so thankful and so proud and honored to see all the leaders gathered in one room to be discussing future of the world in Thailand this week. Thank you so much for coming to our country. I would like to add on to the other first two speakers by starting from a bigger picture, from a macro perspective first. Luckily, I'm one of the luckiest, youngest, frequent participants of the World Economic Forum coming from Thailand every year over the past 4 years. And the leaders this year at Davos said that digital economy this year accounts for 15.5% of the global GDP currently. It may sound small, but within the next 10 years, digital economy will account for 70%, 70, the majority of all the activities, global GDP around the world. If you look back to our country, Thailand, we are still exporting traditional physical trade. We're exporting rice, we're exporting rubber, we're exporting automobile parts. That's the majority of our activities of the $500 billion of GDP. But if you look at countries like China, their digital economy accounts for 44% of their GDP already, almost half. Right? They are exporting digital trade. They're exporting digital service trade. They're exporting green trade. Green trade grew 300% last year. Right? And within the next 10 years, every country would be very similar to China. Right? 70% of all the major activities, digital trade, digital service trade, green trade, will be the major activities of the global GDP. What does that mean? It means most of the value captured currently is still offline, right? Because we are only at 15.5%. But within the next 10 years, the majority of the value captured would be digital economy. For example, stablecoin, right? The Genius Act, we just signed this a few weeks ago. Last year, USDT, USDC, stablecoin accounts for $30 trillion of all the global transactions around the world. That's like the size of the US GDP. This year, we will surpass that number, right? 30 with a T, trillion. They're replacing MasterCard, Visa, the traditional ancient payment system since the Second World War. But not only the US is pushing towards this stablecoin or the tokenization of fiat currency, it's going to be the similar evolution to the newspaper industry 20 years ago. when things were offline, we used to have local monopolies for local newspapers, right? But when things become digital, then we only have a few monopolies, like national monopolies, like Wall Street Journal, Financial Times. Those who have the best policies that are surviving today. But even with that, digital native media first news platform like Twitter is still beating those traditional global, Wall Street Journals, et cetera. Same with stable coins. Every country is tokenizing their fiat. Hong Kong is issuing stablecoin licenses. We are working with the Bank of Thailand on issuing Thai baht stablecoin here. But what we are discussing this morning, blockchain AI, they have no borders. There'll be no local monopolies for currency. Blockchain is going to be like government of governments, placing checks on local governments on if any government is abusing local policies, then nobody's going to be using that local currency in the future. So there'll be economic risk, socio-economic risk coming up with new technologies as well. And not just that currency we're talking about any kind of values now going forward. Anything that can be tokenized will definitely be tokenized. What does that mean? We're not talking about just stable coins. We're talking about, stocks, tokenization of stocks. There'll be no borders. Tokenization of carbon credits, tokenization of electricity units, tokenization of real estate. There'll be no borders. And it's just like newspapers. There'll be no local monopolies, right? Digital native first, like Bitcoin, will eventually surpass traditional fiat or tokenization of fiat. And there'll be risk coming up. For instance, criminals, they can move billions of dollars in tokenized stocks or tokenized real estates or tokenized stable coins within a matter of seconds now, right? By moving the private keys in their brain, wearing shorts and sandals, entering any airports they want, and nobody can confiscate their wealth. Right? There'll be new risks coming up associated with new technology, apart from the velocity of money, advancing the world, pro and cons. Or even the AI. Satya was there, the Group CEO of Microsoft at Microsoft House this year, next to the Congress Center. He said this is the first time that Microsoft is able to create synthesized protein with the AI. They said last year, quantum computing qubit was noisy, but this year, qubit is stable. With quantum supercharging AI, it's like AI on steroid. We will create an unprecedented amount of data sets. It will advance the medical sector. It will speed up scientific discovery an order of magnitude faster. Instead of 150 years, down to 15 years. But it will create new risks also. Biowarfare, right? Criminals can create or customize or personalized attack on leaders based on their DNA, synthesized protein, etc. With the AI evolution. So there are pros and cons. Also synthesized material. Microsoft could already create synthesized material. It could create risks for economics as well. Imagine in the next 5 years when there'll be a new AI architecture that will surpass all the human capabilities. Apart from people losing jobs, we will have the new ability to create synthesized gold, right? What would that happen to the global reserve currency around the world? So there'll be economic risk, social economic risk happening in tandem with the benefits of new abilities, new capabilities of technology. So I would say there are trilemmas we have to balance. The first dimension is the advancement of technology. Second dimension is the trust that we need to foster, right, with new technology, and then the cybersecurity. Right? Innovation, trust, cybersecurity. We need to move all these three corners in tandem. But we're living in a very difficult world now. We're not living in the same post-world order. We're moving towards a pre-something world, where the assumption is very different. We're living in this law of the jungle, not a win-win situation. Instead of talking about globalization, we're moving towards a regionalization movement. Instead of talking about free trade agreement, WTO, we're talking about tariffs, onshoring, nearshoring, fragmented supply chain. But these technologies are borderless. But we are moving towards more borders physically, right? There will be challenges on the standardization of technology. How are we going to standardize regulation on cryptocurrencies around the world, right? On governance, on the scalability of technology. We need standardization, we need compatibility, because these technologies have no borders. But at the same time, we're moving towards a more fragmented supply chain, onshoring, nearshoring, fighting over talents because everybody is getting old, right, around the world. One-fifth, 20% of the Thai population is above 65 now, right? But we cannot rely on other countries in providing, centralized economy of scale and supply chain. How are we going to find the talents to push the new technological frontier forward, right? And trust is also at the lowest point. They show the collaboration barometers every year. The only metrics that got better post-COVID was health collaboration. But in terms of security, in terms of trust, we're at the lowest point amongst countries. So we are living in this difficult situation where the fourth industrial revolution technologies are coming up. Blockchain, AI, they are advancing new capabilities, unlocking GDP, digital FDI, unlocking new growth. But at the same time, they're creating more risks. And the way to solve, these or prevent risks going forward is to have collaboration amongst different countries. But we're living in this difficult situation where we're not really moving towards a globalization world. We're moving towards a regionalization movement, a fragmented supply chain. How are we going to standardize this or have this compatibility of the fourth industrial revolution so we can have a resilient growth, right, going forward that are not leaving people behind. And at this crossroads, everyone is also getting old. So this is the point I would like to make. We're living in this dilemma where we need to advance the the disruptive technology forward. And no countries are stopping because the old economies are dying. There's no premium left. It's all about price cutting, red ocean competition. Premier Lee Hsien, Prime Minister of China, said himself that the world can only grow by advancing the science and technology revolution, unlocking new growth, new premium. So we need to advance the technological disruption, the fourth industrial revolution going forward. But at the same time, the trust is at the lowest point. How do we foster trust amongst countries? And also cyber security needs to keep up in terms of the standardization of regulations, compatibility of technology, scalability of technology. So we're living in these trilemmas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Top. After listening to what Top has said, I actually can pick up certain ideas which are more or less interconnected across the three speakers. General Reddy, in one of his slides, mentioned about interconnected vulnerabilities across digital ecosystems. And that by itself necessitates the need for countries to work together to address these issues. Top mentioned that technology is borderless, but because of trust deficit, trust is still going down. More countries are building borders, not just physical borders, but even digital borders. And I guess in a way, building of digital borders is quite connected to the idea of cyber or digital sovereignty. And that also by itself, in a way, drives the demand for sovereign tech or sovereign AI. So we are dealing with very much conflicting ideas, actually, And if we put all these things together, it basically summarizes why we have the topic today. Technology is changing and it's disrupting the way that we live, how security is done, how economic is done. It comes with geopolitical competition and becomes more important because it involves sovereignty issues. So I think this is an area where it is very complicated and involves a lot of policy making by all the countries. So my point here is that we're looking at the convergence of technology and geopolitics, the private sector and the public sector. And all these technologies are going to create societal and security consequences that can be difficult to predict. But the fact remains that the parties that develop the technology or the parties that develop the digital economy, vis-a-vis those in the government who devise security policies, national security policies, sometimes they struggle to understand each other, right? The digital economists, the tech people, the national security people, they don't actually understand each other. Sometimes it's like chicken talking to a duck. So, I want to ask for the views from each of the panelists. From your individual perspective, national security, private sector, and digital economy, what can we do to address this challenge about the gap of understanding between the public sector and private sector? Maybe we can start with Anikivas.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, where we see the successes in the different countries is where the public and the private sector work very closely together. All this technology takes a lot of money to implement, and governments don't necessarily have the speed to agree to putting that money down. And the public sector, the private sector often does see the speed with what we need to invest with. So what we see in countries is that the government talks about the deployment, but the money behind it is actually from the private world, is actually from the large companies. So you saw in Scandinavia, for instance, a big deployment where a national wealth or a wealth fund based by big companies put the money down, but the government announced it and was the anchor customer as well, which is fine. But I do think that now with the technologies that we're in, you cannot have it split anymore. It has to come together. And where the politicians and the private money is separate, there we see not many things happen. So they need to come together, which I think in Thailand and this region is starting.
So the successful theme for public-private partnership is building an ecosystem where investment also aligns to create an ecosystem where the private expertise is utilized, governmental policies and regulations are embedded, and thus encourages the ecosystem. If private entities want to excel, government support in terms of policies, regulations is a must. But on the whole, government on its own doesn't have the economic stamina to support this kind of PPP. So private partnership who has got that disposable income to invest in these futuristic options must create that. Also the joint skilling, the government policies should also enable skilling of the youth in an innovative manner so that their talent is encouraged and that is optimized by the government in public-private partnership. That's about talent, funding, and creating an ecosystem. Thank you.
I completely agree with the PPP, the public-private partnership, and the upskilling, reskilling of the people. At the education of, the forum, the sub forum, they said 1/3 of the people would have to go back to school by 2030, just 5 years. 1/3 of the people around the world, one out of 3 people you see. So there's a need for upskilling, reskilling the whole workforce with the world moving so fast. And these issues cannot be achieved by just private sector alone or public sector alone. We need PPP, public and private partnership. But I would like to add on one point, the regional effort. I think ASEAN is a good example. We're coming together as one ASEAN strong, we're signing this DEFA, DEFA, Digital Economy Framework Agreement. Malaysia is the chair this year. We rotate the chair each year. 10 countries are signing this DEFA agreement in this region to unlock. There are nine agreements within this DEFA, but majority are free flow of people, free flow of movement of people, free flow of goods and services, free flow of payments. We're integrating ASEAN as one country, like European integration. We will be the fourth largest economy in the world, 600 million people, and the leaders are discussing now on the standardization of cybersecurity, of AI, of payments, compatibility of payment systems for different countries. We're moving as a region also, and this creates like a dialogue for opportunities for leaders from different countries in the region to meet and discuss on the standardization of regulation, governance, scalability of technology. So one point I would like to add, apart from PPP, upskilling, reskilling, is to have this regional effort.
Top, since you mentioned about PPPs, private-public partnerships, right? And there's an issue which I'm quite interested to find out more about from you, with regards to again on blockchain and stuff, right? So we know that blockchain can also have security applications, be it in cybersecurity, secure communications in the military, or even the military logistics supply chain, besides civilian logistics supply chains. And I believe that as countries try to develop their digital economic goals, they are trying to develop talent on blockchain expertise. Basically, you need the people to develop and deploy these technologies. Do you think that there can be a growing market for small and medium enterprises relating to blockchain to develop and to research and develop this technology in collaboration with defense agencies or ministries of defense? What do you think about this actually?
Blockchain is an open source, right? So for small companies and individuals, they can free ride on the open source, line of code. But the drawback is that there could be billions of dollars of mistakes if we didn't check the code properly. So instead of trusting intermediaries, we have to trust the logic of coding in an open, transparent environment. There are incidences where small companies and individuals just copy and paste open sourced blockchain protocols and their hacks without having to have the second line of defense, third line of defense, double checking on the first line of defense. So there are also risks associated to that. But we're moving towards a more decentralized open source environment, meaning that small players get to free ride on the resources of big companies, or prior investments. They can build on previous infrastructure, previous investment, and the best ideas can be implemented very quickly with the blockchain technology going forward. But pro and cons, right? That's the pro. But the cons, you have to be careful because instead of trusting intermediaries now, we move towards trusting the logic of mathematics and code. So we have to double check on what we are building on top in whatever source code or code that you got from the open source.
I think this topic on open source technology, open source code is quite fascinating because it basically democratizes the technology. Anybody can use it. The good guys, the bad guys, those in between. Which brings me to the issue on cybersecurity or cyber warfare, which I would like to seek the views of General Reddy, based on your very many years of experience in the military. Given the issues we have discussed earlier, including about open source technology, can you share with me or with us what can we expect in the next 5 years with regards to the trend of cyber warfare, which we see is happening around the world? And if I may add to it, sir, I know that India, for example, is becoming a space superpower, right? So how do you see, I mean, based on India's experience, the connection between cyber warfare and the outer space domain?
Yeah, firstly, the question is very, very interesting for me because you said, what can I expect in next 5 years? I, as an intelligence chief, I was worrying myself, what can I expect next month? Because not that 30 days is too long a period for cybersecurity experts to be taken for a ride by those who are working behind the curtains or some remote location, sitting with a system to overrule all the regulations, all the policies that are in place, and sneak in through the systems and create vulnerabilities to the society, to the government, to the economic system, and so on and so forth. So the point I am trying to say is, cybersecurity is not a issue where we will have the leverage or the luxury of thinking and then acting. We have to do it concurrently. Because those who are exploiting these cyber policy regulations loopholes are 10 steps ahead of the enforcing agencies and the governments. So any transformative technology like disruptive technology is very fast and very evolving. And those young minds, probably they would be teenagers who would be working very hard to come out with innovative ideas to overcome all the railguards that the governments or the nations would be creating. So probably what is required is to instill in the young minds at the schools and colleges level to think creatively and come out with strategies, ideas to counter these. Because those are the young minds which will come out with out-of-box solutions. An aged person like me sitting at the apex of the government structure, probably I can't think of how to counter those measures which are being thrown at me. So it has to be very, very innovative ideas which has to come up from youngsters. Brilliant youngsters, school children can come up with, tremendous ideas. And here is to my right, young CEO, who is an expert. He is a successful authority on this subject. So this is the kind of talent that we have to identify to come out with strategies to counter cybersecurity issues. That's my.
Before I open up the floor, I just have one question for Aniki. Because you're from AMD, you make chips. And we are now talking about quantum computing, right? So my question is simple. Currently, quantum computing is still pretty much less in the realm of sci-fi to some people. But when do you expect it to be a practical reality? And when that happens, can we actually see a Skynet situation? When we have a rogue agentic AI, and then when the government tries to shut down the computer, apparently it doesn't work because the AI resides in the cloud and it starts to be misbehave, and that basically throws out all this argument about responsible AI, because responsible AI is pretty much about coders, the users being responsible, but how do you even tell the agentic AI to behave responsibly? So your views, please.
Well, I think those scenarios can happen already before quantum. But quantum really, again, for it to become an industry, probably another 5, maybe even 10. But quantum, yes, it is the next big thing, but quantum is a part of the infrastructure. So you have qubits, you have GPUs, CPUs, all the different products. So we don't think that it will replace everything. It is another infrastructure that we can build on. But it's definitely what we see. Certain countries, they have invested a lot in quantum, which is great, but they've kind of missed the boat on AI. So now they're backpedaling on AI. So, but it is a sequential AI and then quantum, and you have to make investments on both sides right now. So, but it will take a few years. So.
Very much. Okay, I would like now to open the session to the floor. I would like to invite questions. Please keep your questions brief and let us know if you want to address this question to everybody or just any particular speaker. We can take 2 questions first. this gentleman and Elena. Okay, gentleman first.
Yeah. I'm Colonel Nanasit from Royal Thai Army, and thank you for the visionary presentation. My question is to Ms. Anker, because I'm a big fan of AMD. Since I was a student, I use our AMD, and I have an instinct at home to train my models. This is a question about that because you're talking about the borderless of the technology. But as our government, our security agency, we have to control it within borders. So this is a very important question. Have you even mentioned this? Because in the AI generation, what is important, most important, and that Alexander Wang has mentioned, is the good data and the security of data. And this, do you think like we don't have the sovereignty because the person who control the AI all around the world is the big powers like Google's and also this company. But how can we, the small country like we in ASEAN, we need to invest to have own like whole ecosystem in our security agency? Because you have to divide, okay, you have the use productivity in business, that's fine. But in security dimension, you have to control it. So for like from an army and armed force, you will need to invest to have our own like ecosystem and LLMs. For myself, I did myself. I do whole automation myself to develop fine tuning from the open source. But for the whole army, like in each country, what do you think about the small country should have in the next few years in the AI generation? Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll take two questions. So Annika has one question, and Elena.
Shall I continue?
Elena first.
Okay, thank you, moderator. My question is primarily to Hanneke, but any other panelists, please feel free to respond as well. I'm Elena Noor, Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. I'm really glad, Hanneke, you brought up open everything, and that's sort of the hope of many of our countries in this region. The reality, though, is that because of the securitization of technology and access to infrastructural components, it's a little bit more challenging on the ground to gain open source everything. And so I wonder if you could speak a little more to some of these practical challenges that countries are facing right now with regard to not just chips, but also subsea data cables, for example, are being subjected to national security agreements by particular governments. How can countries get over this hurdle? Thank you.
We'll do two questions first. So maybe Annika can start with first question from the gentleman, then followed by.
Well, first of all, thank you for your trust in AMD. I appreciate the call out. About the sovereignty of the data. When we sit down with countries, it is very funny. Every time they start, we want to build big data centers in our country. And we go, okay, that's going to take 2-3 years. Do you have the energy to do that? Et cetera, et cetera. And it takes too long if you have to build from scratch. So we then go like, okay, you can work with the hyperscalers. You can start tomorrow. Get started. You don't want to do that long term because basically all your AI licensing money is going to companies on the West Coast in America. And your data is training American models as well. So, but it is an option to start. Now, what we see very much is the up and coming neo clouds, which are the smaller clouds in the region, owned by Thai or other, local governments, local regions. And that is very important. It's going to be all three. On-prem data centers, hyperscalers, as well as neoclouds. Because not all your data needs to be secure data. Because that's going to be very costly. There are certain data that the search is, that can be anywhere. So it's going to be a combination of all three at any time. If you talk about military data, of course, defense, intelligence, That's more on-prem, of course. And that is going to be the growth area for AI for the next 2 to 3 years. So, but it's a combination of all three.
To Eleanor's question?
Yeah, so currently the shortage of semiconductors is done. We had kind of sovereign AI 1.0, as I call it, where there was just a mad dash for GPUs. Everybody was buying GPUs with no real use case. So they were just putting down money, buying GPUs, and then they were like, what are we going to use them for? So then you saw a little bit of a pause. Now, sovereign AI 2.0, people are really sitting down and go, what are we going to do? What are we going to focus on? So a lot of countries have secured money for deployments, but they're not spending it yet. They're doing it stage by stage because they first want to make sure that they're putting the money to the right use cases. So I think that is very important. There is, and we've seen that over the last months, where can we ship our chips to? And that can change day by day. I do think there is going to be an equilibrium of the different regions where we can ship, but also there will be more competition. So, of course, our biggest competitor right now is NVIDIA, and then we are now in second place, and there will hopefully be more competitors. I do believe in a competitive environment where you have also, for instance, Huawei doing more the China and that region, but also startups, Cerebrus and others that have more niche applications. But this market, this semiconductor market and its solutions needs to become competitive. It's better for the price, it's better for sovereign entities to make the ROI work. So yes, there will be restrictions and regulations, and they might change once in a while, but we will build products. If there's restrictions, we will build products that we are allowed to ship. We are an American company, so we will, follow US regulations, of course, but this is a worldwide market, and there needs to be a competitive play.
General?
I'll just make a quick point to the first question about data sharing. He spoke. In particularly, in military domain, data is very, very critical asset or a resource which you should never share. Not only with any other country, even within your country, you should never share with any other private entities. It has to be remaining within the defense organizations. And also, if we have to share the data within your establishments in the military to come out with analytics, then you have to use the obsolete data, maybe 5 years old data of no use to anybody within your country. Rest of course, in any case, nobody would be interested 5 years data in particular about intelligence or such other issues. So that's very, very important. Irrespective whether it's big or small nation, data is very important. It has to be protected. That's my quick.
Top, would you like to add anything to it? Any views on any of this?
Just a quick vision on the regionalization initiative. If you look at in the past 50 years, 80 years post-World War, Thailand is too small to create our own payment system. We don't have the scale. We have to rely on the SWIFT system for payments. We have to rely on MasterCard and Visa, right? But that's fine because we were living in this globalization world. The world was not fragmented. But now many countries will be forced to choose side, right? East or west, going forward. What cloud are you going to use? What payment system are you going to use? For small countries, we have to come together as one ASEAN strong to not be forced to choose side. So when, if Thailand is not joining forces with the ASEAN countries, we don't have the scale. We are talking about invisible critical infrastructure of the future. Data centers, AI, payments. These are invisible critical infrastructure, and we need scale. So I don't think Thailand would have the resources or the economy of scale aspect to have our own AI or our own payment system. But as one ASEAN strong, eventually we will have ASEAN AI, and we will eventually have our own SWIFT, Visa, MasterCard for ASEAN as well. That's part of the DEFA, actually, DEFA agreement that countries are discussing.
ASEAN strong. Bear that in mind, not just for security, but also for digital issues. We have time for just one last question down there, the last question. No worries. If you guys have any other questions, you can catch the speakers later during lunchtime. Yes, last one. My good friend from the Philippines. Please, sir, go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain James Ramon Jr. of the Philippine Navy from the Armed Forces of the Philippines. In the past few decades, we've seen the general availability of mobile devices from the laptops. Up to now, we have mobile phones, smartphones. Studies have recently shown that the younger generation, our children, are steadily losing their capacity to actually write using a pen and paper. Okay, in relation to our topic in this discussion, I'm interested in knowing your insights of how do we actually deal with unintended consequences of all these technologies. I believe this is something that all nations, all states would be interested in actually pursuing.
Do you want to direct the question to any particular speaker or in general?
No, to our three speakers, if they have insights on what I'm asking.
Yeah. So can you just summarize the question basically? Try.
Unintended consequences.
Again, my question is, how do we deal with unintended consequences of all these disruptive technologies?
Okay, right. The last question, maybe each speaker can sum it up within 20 seconds.
Okay, I'll start. What we see with AI, for instance, now is that the whole educational system has to pivot from IQ to EQ. So IQ, AI will be able to do it, probably pretty soon, much better than we can. But EQ is going to be so important. And there we have to really safeguard that we do educate our youth on EQ. And that does mean sometimes get away from your phone and regulate it better. But yes, there's definitely consequences, and we need to be very careful about it. But we need to educate what is going to be important going forward for them.
General?
So in particular, in India, I can say that we have something called Integrated Risk Management Center at the apex level, at the national level, which is an extension of the National Security Council Secretariat, where they get to know the kind of challenges, not because that what we are facing in India particularly, but because looking at across the globe, whoever else is facing the challenges, we can also take a leaf of experience. What are the challenges the others are facing? And proactively, we can start working, addressing these challenges, either by requesting them to share their success stories of addressing, or we devise and innovate and come out with solutions. So this is the national whole of nations approach to have an integrated risk management center, which looks beyond the curve, which foresees the kind of risk that is coming up your way and takes action now proactively.
Thank you, General. Top.
If you look at the current platforms or technology, there are hidden consequences. For social media, it creates depression, loneliness, right? And short attention span that nobody talks about. And going forward with AI, blockchain, I think it's going to be very similar in that technology is going to front run regulation. For example, AI, they have this mind reading abilities now. Have you seen this experiment where you put a man under the MRI machine and scan the prefrontal cortex and limbic brain, and the AI could tell exactly what he was looking at or memorizing? There's no secrets going forward, right? And internet internet has been around, I don't know, for 20 years. We just pushed out this PDPA recently. Imagine how many years it will take for new regulations to catch up on this privacy issue if AI has this mind-reading ability. It's easy for investigator, right? Easy job going forward for investigator, but not for common man on the street. Like, can you please ask for my permission to read my mind? Right? There'll be like new risks, unhidden consequences coming up with new technology as well. Right? So I think regulation has to catch up. I think it comes back to my first point, the trilemma. Right? Innovation, we cannot stifle innovation because the world is not growing anymore. We need new growth. But at the same time, trust is at the lowest point. We need collaboration, standardization, compatibility of technology, scalability of technology, regulation, governance, and also cybersecurity. How do we push the three dimensions in tandem going forward?
Thank you, Top. And with that mind-reading AI, perhaps that's the day that we will see AI gaining sentience and we have to face the threat of Skynet as an ASEAN region. We have come to the end of this session. If any of you have any further questions, please feel free to catch them during lunch. Just intercept them along the way when they are trying to go to their buffet tables. And in any case, I would like to hand over to the MC, please.
All right, thank you to our distinguished panelists for sharing their knowledge and experiences, as well as the moderator for his wonderful guidance of the discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the conclusion of the concurrent session. We hope that you found the discussions to be both challenging to your thinking, as well as deepening your understanding of the impact of these emerging technologies, especially on issues such as the threats and benefits of these technologies that need to be understood, policy considerations of open, responsible AI and optimal AI infrastructure that's tailored for individual needs, tokenization, and a trifecta of innovation, trust, and cybersecurity that needs to be considered, as well as new opportunities and threats such as synthetic materials and health and bioterrorism.
Yes, and before we move on to lunch, we would like to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speaker and moderator for their invaluable contribution. To present token of our appreciation, I would like to invite General Pongthep Gaochayo to the stage to present tokens of appreciation to our speakers and moderator. General Pongthep Gaochayo, please proceed to the stage then. And first, we would like to invite for the panelists, Mr. Jilayus Japsi Sopa, founder and group CEO of Big Cup Capital Group, Thailand.
And now to receive a token of appreciation, I would like to invite Lieutenant General GAV Reddy, Chief Strategic Officer at Synergia Foundation India, to the stage, please.
And next, I would like to invite Ms. Hanige Prickelt, the Corporate Vice President at Global AI Markets of Advanced Micro Devices.
finally, our moderator for this session, Mr. Mohammed Faisal bin Abdul Rahman, Research Fellow at IDSS Raja Ratnam School of International Studies, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore.
And we would now like to invite the panelists and moderator to take a group photo on the stage, please. Thank you, General Pongtep, and our sincere appreciation once again to all our speakers and moderator for their extraordinary insights during this session. At this point, we would also like to express our gratitude to our sponsors from the private sector for their sponsorship of this event. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the concurrent session. Next on the agenda today is lunch, yes, which will be served in the London rooms. The fifth plenary session, which will comprise of young leaders, will begin promptly at 13:30 hours. Thank you, and please enjoy lunch. Thank you. ขอบคุณค่ะ